So what Emma and Sheila have been doing is using the WhatsApp. Who's creeping in behind you?
Hey. No,
Is it Kay?
yeah.
Hi, Kay. Hi, Kay. Hello. Love the pictures from your holiday. So nice to see the pair of you enjoying yourselves and relaxing, and this one not working.
Which one's on it?
The white.
Oh, the Maddies.
Oh, right.
Maddies.
Okay, sorry, I'll leave you to it.
Okay.
Everybody's coming back in now. Wonderful. Brilliant. Okay. Right. Yeah, we'll have to try and sort out your mic for the next one in 2 weeks' time, won't we, Sheila? Yeah. You might have the same problem as Carl had before. Okay, so we'll wait for everybody else to come back in. We've just still got a couple more. Like the boys coming back now. Who else? Miss Reagan. Wait for Karen to come back. Oh, there's Karen gone. I'm not seeing Karen, I'm seeing everybody else, but I'm not seeing Karen Reagan. Is she still in the breakout room, Carl?
Shouldn't be, because they've all closed down.
Right, okay. Unless she's accidentally knocked herself out.
I think she has. We've only got 16 in now.
Exactly, we started off with 19. Hey, Karen's coming back in now. There she is. Hey, we got you. We were just waiting for you to come back in, Karen. Right, okay, so you've all had a bit of a chance to discuss everything apart from Karen, who was just talking to herself, right? Because she ended up paired up with me, right? So by the time I'd flipped out, because myself and Fiona's busy making the tea at the moment, so she's on listen only, right? So she couldn't really take part in that. So let's have a see. So breakout room 1. All right, so who was breakout room 1? Was that you, Karen?
No.
Breakout room 1 was the one we scrapped. It was me and Fiona. Sorry. Breakout room 2.
That was me and Dave.
Yeah, that was Steve and Dave. Yeah, I'm just making a note.
So,
okay.
Sorry, I didn't realise that was ours.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we were quite unlucky, really, because on a women's assertiveness event, we ended up with 2 blokes. So I can't tell a lie. We sort of abused it a little bit because we're from the same branch, so we had a little bit of a chat about Runcorn Delivery Office. But the upshot is, I've not actually dealt with customers for probably about 16 years, so I'm still at the stage where I just nut them. Whereas Steve has a different view. So I'm going to hand you over to Steve.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, so because it's a situation I've been in recently, it was we have to say, as long as you remain calm, keep a smile on your face, be polite, diffuse the situation, and explain that you've got work to do for other people. It's not just all about them. Yeah. And try and just remove yourself from the situation, really. Yeah.
And that's right, because like we said, when we said about your wants and your feelings as well, okay, right? Because by turning around and saying, there are other people here that I've got to consider as well, you're actually showing that person that, that it's not just about them. So again, you're looking at that other party as well. So there's you're getting your balance there. And we know that with customers, they're not always going to get what they want, right? I know last time we had Maggie on, who obviously has had a lot of experience, I think, on the customer service, and I know Emma's done a lot of that sort of stuff. I couldn't cope with it. I couldn't cope with people shouting at me all day, doing stuff like that, But that's what you do. You do balance it all up. If somebody's unhappy, then yeah, we do need to sort of balance that up, and we need to take it on board. So thanks a lot for that, Steve. So 3, who were doing the manager's health and safety, that was Emma and Sheila, wasn't it? Yeah. Right. I'll let Emma's. I know Emma's reporting back because Sheila's got mic problems.
Yeah, Sheila's mic. So we did the raising a health and safety issue with the manager. So we said obviously first step is to raise the issue, what the situation is, what we want to happen to make the situation safe and the risk be managed properly. Maybe how the issue makes you feel. I'm looking at my phone because we've had to do it all by text. Whether you're concerned, you're worried about coming to work and so on. How it could impact the business as well. So there's their needs there as well. There could be serious injuries. Try to go to the manager with solutions or suggestions if we can, rather than just raising the issue. Come to them with ideas on or ways it can be fixed or investigated. So for us, from a union perspective, we could volunteer our safety rep, help with the situation as well, and don't let them sidetrack us or dodge the issue. Just keep repeating what we need to happen if they try to do that.
Yeah, I think that's there's a couple of really good points there, Emma. And one of them there is the fact that looking at it from the business's perspective and get their buy-in as well, because we do have to take into consideration it is a business. As I said, our members can't always get everything that they want, but it is looking at it from their perspective. Again, putting yourself in the other person's shoes. In this case, it's the business. It's not necessarily always an individual. Sometimes you've got to look at that bigger picture and actually see that. And I think this is one of the things that we can do as union people as well, and as members, right, is when when we're in that sort of situation where we want to raise something, is show empathy for the other party, whether it's the business or not. So, I understand that. Sorry, did somebody want to come in? No? Right. I understand from your perspective, and that again, you're sort of giving them that respect. As we said, they've got rights, we've got rights as well. And I think, things like health and safety, you're not talking mainly normally for an individual. Normally you're talking about more than one person as well. So I think, absolutely, that is a nice way of sort of balancing that up. Everything that you've said in there is the sort of thing that I would expect. So the work colleague on group 4, was that you, Angela?
That was
No.
Karen.
Was that Karen? That was Karen on her own, the work colleague. That's you on your own, Karen. Yeah.
So I just spent time talking to myself like I normally do and eating a bag of crisps and a double decker, right? And then I said, I imagined I said, look, I'm feeling a bit put upon here and I'm not happy because I feel like I'm doing an unequal share of the workload here. And they'd more than likely tell me to bugger off, which they would. And I'd say, no, honestly, I am. I'm not a bit happy here because I feel like I'm doing more than you. He'd tell me to go and give me head a wobble. And can you hear me?
Yeah,
Oh,
we
all
can
right.
hear you fine.
So this is the kind of conversation that I felt like it goes on all the time in Royal Mail, honest to God. It really, well, not so much delivery, I couldn't tell you about that. Our mail centre's staffed full of really lazy people, and I'm probably one of them half the time as well. So, excuse me. So it's a bit difficult to do this on my own. I'd also maybe investigate if there was something wrong with them. Have they got back problems? Have they got trouble with their eyesight? What's making them go slower? And I just tell them that I wasn't very happy about it, and to say the truth, nothing would probably come of it. He'd probably be abusive to me. And so I'd have to say, well, where'd you go from there, really? I'd probably go and have a word with me rep and ask them to go and have a word with them. Because if I wasn't happy working with them and I'm stuck with them, well, what you do, really? There's not much that you can do when you're having a conversation on your own. So I would have liked to bounce off with somebody. By the way, Karen, if this ever happens again, maybe with somebody with odd numbers, make up a 3 with somebody. Rather than just leave me on my own.
We'll do that. It was a first, this one, to do it into pairs. I do apologise, Karen.
Yeah, I know.
It's you shouldn't have been on your own. It's just we ended up with an odd number. We started off with an even one. We ended up with an odd number.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, what you said there, it is difficult to talk to a work colleague, especially if you can see this happening all the time. I've certainly been in that situation when I've been working with colleagues. And I know the difference between, how much work I'm putting in for how much they're putting in. And sometimes you do start to build up a little bit of resentment, and then people get very defensive, right? And they do that. And I think that's part of, when you train to be a rep, it is one of the things that we learn how to do better. When I look back to when I started, I would not deal with half the situations that I have now. I wouldn't have dealt with them in that way. I wouldn't have known how to. I hadn't really learned how to deal with that kind of thing. And I think it is about trying to deal with something yourself first if you feel comfortable. I mean, if somebody's been abusive to you and, you know, you can't say to them, please stop that, right? And we do have members who are in that situation, then yeah, get one of the reps involved or get the manager involved, you know, whichever way you want to do that. But again, it's, you know, it's what people feel comfortable with. And it's to say, not being passive and letting it happen. I've worked with people who've I've watched them be, you know, spoken to in completely inappropriate manners and they've just let it happen. But sometimes, you know, we speak up for somebody else. But yeah, when somebody's not pulling the weight, it is a difficult one, that one. Okay. Yeah. So does anybody else want to sort of chip it? Oh, well, we'll go through the whole lot again. So the next one, so group 5, that was the colleague misbehaving. Was that yourself, Tana?
That was Tanya and Leslie.
And Leslie and I realised that we were at Alverscott together, and so we spent some time actually catching up with that and our experience of the last our last week of study, so which wasn't a great experience. We basically sort of ran through, I'm trying to read my notes now, asking a colleague to fully appreciate that what they are doing and how they are saying what they're doing. So it's not necessarily just what they're saying, but it can be how they're saying it. Can be offensive. And we talked about living in your own bubble, so whereby you may read, let's say, the Daily Mail, which reinforces your opinions. You look on Twitter, which reinforces your own opinions, and so people can live within their own bubble and get empowered by that bubble, but that can be offensive to others who don't have the same perspective. And I think certainly within Royal Mail, it may be better now, but we have certainly seen an awful lot of fairly bigoted views over the years towards women, towards religion, towards race, and it does need to change.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, I fully agree. And, you know, this is why I think it's something that we commonly do come across is actually, you know, talking to people about the behaviours. I mean, having been a woman coming through a man's world, you know, from the 70s, I mean, it was very, very different when I started in engineering in the 70s and what was acceptable then, right? I mean, we still have page 3 girls pinned up in all the exchanges and all kinds of things. Even my own husband had them stuck to the roof of his van and things like that, things that we nowadays would just not accept whatsoever. But I have always challenged it. But, you know, whereas I did it quite meekly in the early days, I think in my latter days, it got to the stage where, you know, I was able to sort of voice my concern and say, you know, I actually find this really, really offensive, right? You know, I appreciate you may not, you know, have actually intended it that way, but that's how I'm feeling and I'd rather you stop. So, yeah, and I like this idea about people living in the bubble, because I think we've talked about things like unconscious bias and stuff, and we know that exists. If anybody wants to look more into that, please do, because it's really quite fascinating if you've ever done a test on unconscious bias to actually show yourself, right? I have to admit, I was shocked when I did one a while ago. So I think, you know, people do live in their own worlds completely, but at the same time we have to work with everybody else as well, and it's not wrong to actually turn around and say, look, I'm not happy with how things are. So thanks for that, both of you.
So I started work. I was a shepherd for a number of years, and when equal pay for women came in, and my boss said to me, "Well, you're paid the same as Fred and I, so therefore you can pitch all the bales and you can stack all the bales because you're paid the same." I couldn't for about 5 years. I had such a bad back, but I could not say a word against him. However much pain I was in, I still pitched all those bales by hand and worked so hard.
Yeah.
You know, it's looking back on it, I wish I was the person I was now and said, that behaviour is unacceptable.
Yeah, and I think, you know, in that situation as well, we're talking about, you know, a lot of what we do is inequality, you know, and what we're doing is an equality aspect. And one of the things I say is we get equality pretty well sorted, and I think things like equal pay is an equality thing, but the diversity aspect of accepting that we're different, whether we're physically different, whether our genders behave differently, and things like that is not the same. And diversity is not the same as equality. I know it's used together, but I do think, I know, you know, I think for my business, they get the equality side pretty well, but they don't get the diversity side very well. And I think that what you've just outlined there is a prime example, right, of not actually saying to somebody, you know, you've got different strengths, right? And you may, oh, here we go, there's Triv, he's got to come and say hello at every call that we're on, right? So, you know, I fully take that, you know, I agree with you there, because that's exactly, you know, what we would have done. I mean, it's that old adage, wasn't it? To be a woman in a man's world, you have to work twice as hard. But the caveat is, luckily for us, it's not difficult. You know, but, you know, thanks for that, Sana.
Take care.
Right, group 6 now, which we're doing the customer one again, the angry customer. That's out with Angela.
Mel, do you want me to do it, Mel?
Yeah, you can do if you want, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we looked at it from both point of views, because Mel works in EE, so hers is over the phone. So she gets abused in a different way over the phone. So what Mel was saying is, don't be patronising, know what you're talking about. And one of their big things was take ownership of it and see it through to the end, not pass it on to somebody else, or onto a different department. Take ownership of it and see it through to the end. And one more, I did this scenario when I used to work in the caller's office, and somebody came in screaming and shouting in the caller's office at me, and both of us had to keep calm. So the face-to-face one was working in the caller's office, and one of the worst things, the hardest thing for me is to keep your face straight, because when someone's screaming and shouting at you and you want to say something back and you just stare at them, and I just think, you know what, I can just laugh in your face and walk off, because then you're out of order. Do you know what I mean? And try and be helpful, but you can only be helpful for so long. If someone's screaming and shouting at you, you're just going to think, well, do you know? And my line was, do you know what? I'll go and get a manager. I'm not paid to take your crap. Let a manager deal with it. Just walk away.
And I think you're absolutely right there. There's a limit, you know, even when you're trained, I think, and you know, you trained in customer service and stuff like that. Like I say, I couldn't cope with people shouting at me all day. There are people who can do that out there. It's not me, right? And I, you know, would only take so much of it. And I have done with members. I've had members screaming at me down the phone, right? You know, in fact, it's only happened the other day, right, where one lost the plot completely and was screaming at me down the phone, right? Now she hung up. Otherwise, I would have said to her, you know, please, you know, I'll terminate the call if you can't just bring it down a peg or two, right? And sometimes that's what's needed, isn't it? To diffuse that emotion. As we've said before, emotion is behind a lot of what we need to change. And when you've got those feelings that go with it, it's about acknowledging your feelings, right? And still being yourself and remembering you've got those rights, but at the same time, delivering the message in the right way. Also, you know, knowing when to pick your fight, when to pass it on to someone else, like you've just said. You know, so that's great. Thanks for that, Angela and Mel. Right, and are we on to Sonia next? And so was it? Who was
Joe.
Sorry, Joe. Oh, it was Joe. Was it Joe and Rachel next?
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, we had the raising a safety issue in the workplace. And Rachel's actually had experience of this. I actually haven't. I'm quite fortunate to say in all the time I've been doing this. But we discussed about the approach that you take and agreed it definitely helps to have the approach thought out. So collate the information on what the problem is, who does it affect, what is the potential of not taking any action, what we want to happen, when, by, and who would take responsibility, and then remember to follow up with reasonable intervals if necessary. I think we agree with a lot of, I think Emma had said a lot of the similar things, and definitely remain calm. Don't look for blame, look for a resolution in the matter. I don't know if, Rachel, you want to add anything else that we discussed?
No, I think that's right. You know, we need to look for, you know, as the example I gave you about the issue we had in the warehouse. You know, I spoke to the manager and said, can we sort the issue out before it becomes a problem? But unfortunately, it didn't happen. But yeah, you have to try and sort the issue out. Sorry,
Yeah.
you have to apologise. I'm just trying to order dinner in.
Put you on the spot then.
Multitasking.
It's my bank holiday. It's my day off, and I've had three Zoom meetings on my day off. So I'm just
No, thanks for that, Joe and Rachel. And yeah, you're absolutely right. It's about trying to find that resolution, right? It's like finding that balance, is it? Where you get what you want and the other side gets what they want. And this is what we've been saying all along. That is what assertiveness, that is the key to it. And I think another good point there that Joe made was, you know, and I think Emma mentioned it earlier, try and go in with a resolution, right?
Yeah.
Like we said, what do you want? One thing employers don't want, right? Or even customers to that, you know, is to actually for somebody to go in and say, I just don't like what you're doing, right? You know, people want a solution. So it's always good, especially, you know, in a situation like the health and safety one, to say, look, if we do this, this will be better. If we do that, we could do this, we could do that, because employers do want that. You know, sometimes it's not what we've been used to in the past, but I think it is the right way to go. And I think for those of you from Royal Mail, because you're still quite new at being a private company, you know, we've now got those people of, you know, BT and EE and stuff, of, you know, we've actually got more of a handle of putting it in their terms as well. So looking at that side. So that's great. Thanks very much to Joe and Rachel for that. And finally, we've got Sonia and Sue.
You want to go ahead, Sue,
Go,
or
Sonia.
shall I? We can split it. Sonia Campbell used to work for BT, now retired. Can everyone hear me, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. We had number 8, challenging a colleague. I thought, I hope Sue agrees with me now, that the word challenge was a bit harsh. So we looked at it by approaching a colleague and letting he or she know. I used to work in fibre, so I used to help with do the plans for the engineers to go out on site. And this is a true incident, no names. My colleague had planned it incorrectly. So she'd planned it across a motorway, which obviously that would involve loads of money to close the roads, rather than going round. I found an easier approach. But who she was anyway, I couldn't use the word challenge. I just approached and said, have you thought of doing it this way or that way? And then we used another incident where somebody's using your cup in the canteen. So you're not going to go and challenge them. You're going to approach them and say, like, don't use my cup or something like that. It basically was trying to be non-aggressive, because challenge to me sounds aggressive in itself.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think,
And
Sue.
that, yeah, you're absolutely right there. Do you want to jump in, Sue?
Yeah, we were saying as well, like, it depends on the situation, because you could have a health and safety situation where you have to be like, you know, challenge them, your behaviours, like, stop. You know, you could need to be more aggressive with your approach for a health and safety issue, or it could be like we've just said, someone's using your cup, they've got a fridge, like a communal fridge that everyone puts their own things in, and then someone's taking your milk, like, who are you? You know. So the example I've had recently of having to approach somebody, he was being a bit of an arse with the social distancing rules in our offices. So anyone that works at Royal Mail knows that social distancing is a difficult task when you're moving around. There's literally less than a metre between my frame and the one behind me. So although we were happy working away from each other, this person decided he wanted to come past every time he had a bag to take past, knowing that we're all nervous and not feeling very good. So we did ask him to stop, but then he would deflect, like your example before. Oh, yeah, but you're not saying that to him. Like, you're not saying this to her. I'm like, yeah, but they're not deliberately going past us. you know, we want you to stop doing it. In the end, I had to escalate it to the manager, asked him to have a chat with him. And I think you have to sort of, like you say, know your battles.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do need a little bit of help, and it doesn't mean to say that you're trying to cause problems, but you know, like, you're looking out for the health and safety of everybody and everyone's well-being. If it just takes them to have a chat with them, then hopefully it's all sorted, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, I mean, we chatted about it in the group as well. And the word challenge is quite an aggressive word, right? It is, but as has been said, sometimes it has to be that strong. You know, it depends if people are making themselves unsafe. It is their choice when it comes down to it. I know where I worked, we had people kept running across the road because they changed where the crossing was from the front of the building to up the road a bit. And I'll tell you now, they take their lives in their hands every time they do it, because you just cannot see what is coming round that roundabout in the centre of Ashton. I mean, Andrew will know where it is, where the exchange is in the centre of Ashton, and trying to sort of get across there, across 3 lanes, right? It was just like an accident waiting to happen, but we haven't been able to stop people. It's just, you know, been down to, you know, hoping that they're going to be sensible. But I think, you know, you're right, approaching a colleague, talking to a colleague, you know, just saying what the score is. But if you don't feel confident enough to do that, right, and this is what we're here for, to, you know, to actually talk about how do we do this in a way that is confidence building as well for us. I mean, everybody here tonight and you know, 2 weeks ago has interacted with different people. You've all felt confident enough to speak up, right? But you might not have done in the past. I certainly wouldn't have been able to do it. But I think, you know, with the assertiveness and actually tackling these issues and not just leaving them passively and just thinking, oh, I better not bother, right? That actually does automatically build your confidence anyway, just by trying something, right? I mean, I always have that adage that, you know, I'll try something. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If I can manage to sort of, you know, give somebody a laugh while I'm doing it, if it doesn't work, then fine. Like we said, you know, when we tried this last week, and we said 2 weeks ago, if it doesn't work, we'll probably just end up having a bit of a laugh, right? Because we still learn from that, and that all helps our confidence. So, you know, some great feedback there, and you can probably see why, you know, I said a couple of very simple little scenarios, but it brings out all kinds of things. We've been able to share experiences there, which are things that sort of help people and help us along the way. So just to sort of finish off now, what I'm just going to do is go back to the slides. And again, say we will send all these slides out to you. So I'm just going to share my screen again and go back to where we were on the slides. Okay, so that was where the situations that we were discussing. So she says, why is that not moving on now? Oops, I need to go back, previous. Right, so looking at the next slide there, we've been talking about building confidence, and I saw this and I thought, this is pretty good, this. I use this analogy in a different way for steps, quite often to talk about how depression takes you down. But when I saw that, I thought, what a positive way of looking at it as a set of steps. You know, just I won't do it, you know, because for whatever reason, I can't do it. I don't feel strong enough. I don't feel confident enough to do it. I want to do it, but I'm not really sure whether, you know, whether I've got the skills to be able to do it. Then how do I do it? We've been talking about that today, just 3 little simple ways of going at something. I'll try to do it. Like I said, try and do it. If it fails, laugh it off. You know, I mean, I turn around and I say, I will try all kinds of new things. Anybody who's worked with me in the Northwest knows that, right? And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. One of my epic fails was a women's conference where I took over from somebody who'd gone off sick. It was supposed to be organising it for the WoT because it was being held up in Manchester. And I organised an amazing speaker who had been to see before, and a colleague had been as well, you know, who was working with me on the Regional Women's Committee. And this woman came in and did that part and then did another part that just absolutely bombed, right? And people, just the feedback after was terrible, you know, about this particular woman. Now, if she'd have only done the bit that we had seen before, then we know it would have worked great. But because she put a whole different part of it in, and people really were offended, it didn't work. So, you know, I've always held my hands up and said, no, that bit didn't work. Okay, I can do it. Believe in yourself. We can. We're women. And the 2 guys, 3 guys, including Carl. You know, they all support us. I mean, we do believe in equality, and having 2 guys here is great because that shows, you know, how they support what we're doing. Right? And I think it's great whenever we get the blokes involved in anything that we do. So yeah, I can do it, right? I will do it, right? And then yes, I did it. We've all had those situations where we have come out of a situation thinking, yes, I did it. Whether it was baking a cake, you know, whether it was managing to wash the dog, right? Or should I say, get paint off the dog, you know, which I think somebody on this call had to do recently, you know. So there are so many things that in day-to-day life build our confidence, right? And that we could come in at any stage on these steps here, right? Anywhere at all on there. So I thought, you know, that little building confidence. I love the picture on the top with the 2 arms up like that. You know, I'm thinking about Rosie the Riveter. You know, I'm not trying to do what's his face, Bruce Gordon. You know, I'm trying to do Rosie the Riveter there. Okay. So, you know, we've all got that confidence in us. We just have to give it, you know, believe in ourselves to do that. And I did nick this off the Dove adverts because I just wanted to show, you know, we're all different shapes and sizes, right? We're all different heights, different colours, whatever. But when it comes down to it, you know, strong women are beautiful. Some people will turn around and say assertiveness means you're aggressive. It means, you know, you're women who are just going to walk all over people. No, no. Strong women are genuinely, we are beautiful from inside, you know, and out, because that's who we are. Just look at the smiles on those faces, and I can see the smiles on some of you as well. Okay? And the final thing I wanted to do, which again we'll send the slides out, was just to give you a couple of resources to go to. I strongly recommend A Woman in Your Own Right. I've read 2 versions of that book, the first in the 80s and the second one more recently. It has got some fantastic stuff in about assertiveness. Again, it's where I've got the 3, you know, those 3 points of how we do things from. There are some free courses online. There's quite a few free courses, but I found one there, Total Success, and, you know, the Open Learning on Open Learning World there, which are totally free if you want to go on and do those. Some of them are done in sections, but there's plenty of online help there. Additional info, if you just want to read about it, Mind Tools is something that the union has definitely recommended, and I signed up to many years ago when we first started talking about mentoring. And there's all kinds of things you can do, self-assessments and all kinds of things on Mind Tools. And, you know, Live Positive, methods for developing assertiveness and self-confidence. Again, you know, there's something there for everybody. So I'm just going to stop sharing that. She says, pause the share. Okay, stop the share, come back to everybody. So that's, you know, coming to that's ending what we're doing. Just a couple of bite-sized things there, just to give you some things that you can go away and use, a few practical ideas. I don't want to keep you any longer, considering, oh, we've gone past 7 o'clock. I do apologise. I'm trying to finish at 7. But I hope you've all got something out of it. The next session in 2 weeks' time, if you've already registered for anything, you will get sent that invitation automatically anyway. We'll be talking about proportionality and, you know, why it's important that we have women, you know, at every level, inside and outside the union as well. And then in 2 weeks, and the 2 weeks after that, we'll be talking about leadership. And then after that, it will be up to you. You might even want to join the leadership course, right? So we do have such a thing, you know, for the CWU. So thank you all very much for your time tonight. It's nice to see the dog and the little ones, and Pat hasn't been up tonight, but that's probably because she was on a Zoom call this morning. And don't work too hard tonight, Karen. Thank you to the blokes for supporting us, really appreciate it, and for Carl for being my right-hand man. And we will see you all in a couple of weeks' time. Take care.
Can I just come in before everybody goes? Don't shoot off. I just want to thank Karen for doing this, because it's not easy. It's not easy. We're using new tech that we haven't used before, and I was the one who messed up at the beginning with the sound, so I was at fault. But I think on behalf of everybody, Karen, for the last 2 courses you've done, I know you and Sheila have worked really well together, and we've got more to come. But thank you for doing all the work, Karen, and we really appreciate it. So.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, everybody. All right. Have a good night. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.